Okay, so the next part that we're going to look at is how to get started on this assignment. And that's going to be importing a picture into Rhino from MyLearning. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the steps to do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to set a layer for the picture. Okay, and so I'm just going to double click on layer 1 here, and I'm just going to name this picture. Then we're going to eventually be doing some drawing. So we want to call this maybe line work. All right. And eventually we're going to have something that looks like a solid. So I'm going to call this solids. Okay. So by making this layer active, what I want to do is I'm going to first download the image, and then so we got to set that file destination. Okay. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to run the picture command. So let's go to MyLearning, and we're going to see that this is where the image is. Okay. So I'm going to click on this. And I could save this image as, I believe, if I just exit out of this window. Oops. So there we go. I couldn't do it because my recording bar was in the way. So if we just right click on this, we could save link as, okay? And remember, we're going to put it under a specific file destination. We're not just going to put it in our download list because, you might lose it eventually. So let's go back to where we set up our folder, Autumn 2024, ARC1184, and I'm going to put it in the Rhino files here, okay? And I'm going to hit save. Perfect. Now I'm going to come back to Rhino, and with that layer enabled, I'm going to type in picture, okay? And it's going to ask me for that file directory. Where is it? So it's important to remember where it is. Okay, now I'm going to click open. And it says first corner of picture. Where am I going to put it? I like to put it right at the origin, as usual, right? And you can see that we can kind of scale this image up here, okay? And I'm just going to pick an arbitrary sort of scale. I have no idea how big it's going to be, because the next thing that we have to do is we have to scale it. And I'm actually going to use this as a reference here, okay? So with this being the reference point, what I want to do is I actually have to create an object, because you'll note that if I click on the picture, it is an object, and that's fine. We could scale it, but don't scale it disproportionately like that. So if you have to scale this image, we're going to use the scale 2D command. But before we do that, I need something to sort of snap to here, okay? So I'm just going to click on line work here. I'm going to make that active. And I'm going to grab a rectangle here, okay? A rectangle corner to corner. Perfect. And for this, I'm just going to come down here. And you know what? In perspective, you're going to find that being in perspective is a little tricky with drawing like this. So I might actually exit out of this. And I'm going to set this to a top view, actually. So let's go back and go set view, top. Okay. And let's just double click on that. And there we go. So with my rectangle tool enabled, I'm going to use those crosshairs to align it with that corner and click on the end. Not bad. If you're off a little bit, let's just say that, maybe you kind of made a bit of a whoopsie. That's okay. You can always grab the object and use the scale command, scale 1D in this case, right? I'm going to make it smaller on that x-axis. I'm just going to drag it down like that, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that this is in the 4-inch range, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the image, and I'm going to click on that rectangle as well. And I'm going to tell it that I want to scale it 2D, okay? And I'm going to use this rectangle as my reference so that I can use those O snaps. And I'm going to click on one corner to the other, and I'm going to type in 4 inches. And you can see that we were close, but we weren't there. We weren't 100% accurate. And I'm just going to hit enter to accept that. So now we know that this is roughly to an appropriate scale, right? We want to make sure that we're kind of in that 4-inch range because that's where we've been sort of working and we're going to continue to work. Okay. Now, once I've got that, I can either keep that box there or I could get rid of it. The next step is to learn how to start drawing in Rhino. So let's pick a simple object. Let's start with this object here, okay? So in the top view, like I say, this is going to be really important for me to make sure that my lines are kind of all flat. I'd like to work in the top view. I'm going to use the polyline tool, okay? And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on this corner, and it's just as simple as tracing corner to corner. Now, if I want to keep my lines either dead vertical or horizontal, I can hold the shift key. All right, and that's going to constrain my line. So in this case, I'm going to hold shift, click down to that corner. I'm going to hold shift again. Now I'm going to let go of shift so I can draw up here, but actually I'm going to use my smart track to align me with that top there and click there. And then when it comes to the end point, I can click again. Okay. So did it work? Well, it's really hard to tell, but actually if we come over to the light bulb here next to the picture, we can turn the picture layer off, the visibility off. And there we go. Now we can see that we've got this line work done. So that's good. That's really good. We want that. Okay. So then let's pick something a little bit maybe more complex. So I'm going to type in polyline because I actually like to type the commands. It's a little bit faster. Okay, I'm going to click here. I'm going to come up to this point. I'm going to hold shift down, release shift here. And then for this bottom here, because I know that it's symmetrical along an axis, I'm going to use my smart track again. So I'm going to bring my cursor up here and I'm going to allow it to orthographically smart track down to where it intersects there. Okay. Same with here. I want these points to be equal. So I'm going to use my smart track again and again. Okay. And again. So I'm using my smart track. It's a really useful tool for doing something like this to keep things kind of consistent. Okay. And there we go. All right. We could draw it as a series of lines. So another technique would be to let's do this object here, okay? So if we were to draw maybe part of it, let's go here. I'm just going to hold my shift key down so I can maintain my my orthographic lines here, keeping them orthogonal. But maybe I go here and I hit enter because that's all I really wanted to do. Okay, so now we can see we've got those points, and now I want to draw the bottom. Okay, so let's bring our polyline in again, and let's hold shift down. And you know what? I forgot to use my smart track to align these points, but that's okay. We can fix that. We can make sure. Let's imagine. I'm just going to Control Z. Let's imagine that I accidentally went a little too far, and I'm like, oh shoot, that didn't quite line up. That's okay. We can adjust that point. So I'm just going to hit enter and just kind of go, okay, well, can we fix that? Yes, we can. We're going to click on that curve, which in Rhino lines, all lines are called curves, even though they're not curved per se. But I can actually take this point here and just select it. As long as you select one curve at a time, you will see that it has the points illuminated. Or if you select two at the same time, in which case I'm just going to click and drag here. And if I've selected multiple lines, you'll notice that the points don't show up, but I can actually just tell it to turn the points on by using the points on command. Okay. Now this one needs to move over. So I can either use, I can guess with the gumball. Whoops. Okay. Or I can use what is called the set point command. Now you'll note that you get three options because there are three axes. In this case, I want to set it in the X direction. Okay. And I'm going to deselect the Y and Z. And I'm going to set it You'll note that it's actually setting it based on that existing point there. I'm going to click that and I'm going to hit enter. Oops. You don't have to hit enter. My apologies. You just need to click it and then it's done. Okay. So now remember that we have two different lines, right? If you drew something with two different lines, what we can do is now we can go in and we can actually run a join command so that it takes those two lines, and as long as those points touch, it will create one closed curve rather than two open curves. Okay? So that's the basics of line work right there.